All right, we're somewhere the podcast hasn't been yet. We're in Southern California, but specifically, we're going to be talking about real estate in the Los Angeles, Beverly Hills area. Really
Mhm.
excited. This is going to be a lot of fun. Daniel Phai is joining the podcast. Daniel, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me, Jeff.
Absolutely. I'm so glad we connected. I'm glad we got to get this worked out. I'm on the East Coast. You're on the West Coast. Not always the easiest when it comes to scheduling, but appreciate your flexibility and excited to share a little bit of your story and what it's like to be a realtor in your market.
Oh yeah, it's a little different out
A little
here.
bit different, right? Yeah, and I'm guessing it's probably a little bit different than what we see on TV too.
100%. Very, very.
Yeah.
It's not all glamour. Yeah.
Daniel, before we dive into that stuff, love to get a little bit of an idea of what led you to a career in real estate. So, what were you doing before, and what inspired you to jump into this industry?
Sure. Like you say, a lot of times, like real estate is a windy path. And for me, real estate really started, it was never in the, you know, any realm of possibility for me. I grew up immigrant family, never thought I would even own a home. But it really started with my mindset. My mindset was terrible. It was like the people like me don't own homes. But eventually it changed my mindset, and it all started from there. And when I purchased my the first home that I have, and there was a little guest house in the back. And the real estate agent I was working with told me, "Hey, the former owners used to Airbnb this." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Never thought anything of it. And then my daughter was preschool age, and I realized preschool costs a lot of money. So I thought, you know what? Maybe I should really look into this Airbnb thing. So I started researching it, thought, give it a shot. And I got into the short-term rentals of renting out my own. And then I thought laws change as they constantly do in real estate, and I could no longer Airbnb it. So, I always like to pivot. I never dwell on anything. I said, let's pivot. Let's go long term. And I was so grateful to pivot to long term because shortly after that, COVID hit. And I was so grateful to have a long term tenant. And then I switched gears and rented that out midterm to traveling nurses because I live very close to a hospital. So I got to do all three different adventures in about like 3-4 years. And then I realized the power of real estate, and I started investing long distance in Arizona. And I started picking up a couple properties in Arizona. And then I realized, these properties are changing my life. They're really changing the trajectory of my life in terms of my kids' college, futures, my own future. And I decided I really want to help other people build this kind of wealth, and not just wealth in general, but it has so much to do with, I've heard this wonderful phrase, a quote basically saying revenue is for ego, but profit is for character. And I think
Mhm.
when you talk real estate, it's a long-term investment. It's not, you're not going to get rich quick tomorrow. And everything in our culture right now is about get things really quickly, get rich really quickly. But real estate is about patience. It's about letting time do the work. So I really enjoy helping people think long term. And when you think long term, it's a really healthy way of looking at it. Just kind of like exercise. You don't want to go extreme diets, but you want to consistently over time do little workouts, walk every day, and little by little, you're just a healthy person.
Absolutely, yeah. I can 100% relate to the concept of small optimizations compounding over time. I'm a digital marketing nerd, and SEO is my expertise, and now getting into AI search as well. And that's the whole game, is to understand that the work that you're doing today won't actually pay off until a few quarters from now.
That's
So
right.
yeah, that's interesting. What was the which form of rental, or which term
Mhm.
was, do you think, looking back, what would you say is ideal? Was it the STR? Was it midterm? Was it the longer term tenant?
I guess I would say, just like I look at my business, it, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna explain it, but I would say it doesn't matter. It's
Hmm.
always about the person. So
Yeah.
if you have a long-term tenant that is just a wonderful tenant, it's gonna be the best thing you do.
Yeah.
For my midterm rentals, it was all traveling nurses, and they were all so wonderful. So that was great. Airbnb was hit or miss. I had some interesting characters that came, and so to some people that might be something that they're like absolutely not. But I had wonderful guests as well. And ironically, or just in general, Airbnb made me the most money, right?
Okay.
So I don't know, like, what do you value? When I talk to clients, I say, what do you value most, money, time, or energy? Which of
Mhm.
the three is the most valuable to you? Like, I believe, Airbnb gave me the most money, but it took out the most time, it took out the most energy. Long term, not a lot of energy or time needed to invest in that, but it doesn't make you the most amount of money. But so out
Sure.
of all three strategies, I would say what works for you and the type of, like, you better understand how to screen and interview these people.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense to me too, as well. The shorter term rentals were more profitable, but
Hmm.
require more energy and more work, right? More stress.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting. You have a lot of investing experience.
Yeah.
How many, you're also in Arizona still?
Yeah. So I invested in three properties in Arizona.
Hmm.
They're still running pretty decently well. I kind of looked at cash flow and appreciation. And I thought, if you're going to invest in California, you're not going to get much cash flow, but you are going to do amazingly in the appreciation area. But if you are going to go to places like, like Michigan or something like that, you might get a lot of cash flow, but your appreciation is not going to be the best. So I saw Arizona as a way of kind of a little bit of cash flow doing well, and then also a little bit of appreciation as well. So I thought, you know what, let's hit kind of like a nice little step. And I took it step by step. And, a lot of real estate agents, when they first get in the business, the number one question you get at every meeting is, how do I talk to people where they say you don't have any real estate experience? So when I got in, I thought this is my competitive advantage on the investment side. So I know the numbers, I know how to calculate, the investment itself. So that was a huge competitive advantage for me, like right off the bat.
You found kind of a happy balance there
Yeah.
between cash flow and appreciation in Arizona. What areas of Arizona did you invest in? Are you close to hospitals, close to colleges? Is there a sort of a strategy there as well?
Sure. I learned from I'm sure you're familiar with Bigger Pockets
Yeah.
podcast. Early on, maybe like 6 years ago, when it was more geared towards like newer investors, one person came on and talked about how, look for where the Costcos and the Whole Foods are. And if they're
Mm.
building something there, if they're building a Costco there, they've already spent, tons of money on research. So I have a family. My in-laws live out in Surprise, Arizona. So I went out there and I thought, who lives in Surprise, Arizona? But lo and behold, I see a Costco nearby, and I thought, you know what? This might be a solid place to invest a little bit. And turns out I was pretty right on that, because it's been doing pretty well.
Oh, that's interesting. That's funny because here in the Charlotte metro area, I'm on the north end of the metro area and the Lake Norman region, and a couple towns around Lake Norman have a Costco. They're few and far between, right? But we've got one in Mooresville. There's one over in Concord, and they've been there they've been there more than a decade. And it's funny because both of those markets are really blowing up.
Yeah. So there you go.
It's funny because, and they have to, because it's like, we're getting further away. there's no land to develop in Charlotte, right? So
Yeah.
it's funny how that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, Costco does the research, right? Let them invest the millions in the
Mhm.
data and the analytics, and then just kind of follow their lead. That's a cool hack. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep an eye on that now. I'm gonna
Yeah.
notice Costco's when.
Whole Foods, Costco's, Trader Joe's, all those kind
Yeah.
of health related things like
Hmm.
that. That means
Yeah.
restaurants are being built.
Y-
That's a little healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Whole Foods too. Cool. I feel like the topic of investing, of
Hmm.
serving investor clients, and also the topic of realtors investing is something I'd love to just to kind of foreshadow. Would love for you to come back on the podcast at some point, and we could maybe take a
Sure.
deeper dive into that. So I think that's such valuable information, both on the service side, but also on the personal investment, you know, um, side as well. Personal finance and wealth building opportunities that we have as real estate brokers. Um, what do you serve a lot of investors there in your area? As my next topic was actually I was going to ask you what some of your areas of expertise are: buyers, sellers, or
Sure.
investors, or a little bit of
Um, uh,
all.
as the saying goes, I go where the work takes me.
Sure.
So anyone like, on the buy side, anyone buying a home, whether it's for themselves, they're gonna always look at it as an investment. So I always like to bring that part of it into the forefront. Like, what are the potential value add opportunities there over the years? But mainly, I work with all different types of people. My major the in January last year was when there was so much wildfire news, and it was
Hmm.
a really interesting market to navigate. During that time, I was in the middle of a $5 million multifamily deal where I was representing the buyer. And, we ran all the numbers, everything was great. But during the wildfires, insurance companies left. So it changed everything. So I had to really hold the hand of the clients, and that was like going to grad school, like a master class. And coming out of it, during that time, I was actually I always have goals for myself. One of my goals was to be the top agent in the brokerage at a certain time. And after that ordeal, I became number one at Keller Williams Beverly Hills at that time, which was really amazing. But yeah, I would say that mainly I deal with both buyers, sellers, investors, but to me, everyone's an investor. So I
Hmm.
make sure I let them know, like if you are going to invest in this property, like right now, you'll hear a headline that sales are declining, all this kind of news, like the headlines. But when I show my clients the map, right, they'll see that the homes that have been there for like 100 days, 200 days, for us in LA, is all along the side of the freeways. They're all next to freeways. So there's a reason why these homes aren't selling. It's not because necessarily the market, right? But the second something pops up that's in a decent location, not near a freeway, not near like right in front of a school or anything like that, that thing gets like 7, 8, 10, 12 multiple bids today, which I'm
Hmm.
dealing with a few of my clients, because I would not advise them to invest in something that's right next to a highway. So yeah, all different kinds, but I love the investment side of thinking when I talk to sellers and buyers as well.
Yeah, I love that perspective too. That's a really great point that you make. That buyers are investors regardless of whether they're purchasing for cash flow or if they're purchasing their primary residence, right? We're all investing when we purchase a home.
Right.
So yeah, I love that. Yeah, it makes sense too. I mean, being able to add that perspective, and also when it comes to the market itself, there's so much context that buyers and sellers need to understand, when it comes to location
Hmm.
and price, and why homes linger longer than others, and why some markets are so different than others. So, and
Absolutely.
a metro area like LA has there's so many markets within
Yeah.
that area, right? So, I mean, Charlotte, any urban area, we have a lot of sub markets as well. But you guys, I mean, I can't even imagine how many the diversity of real estate markets that you have around that city must be incredible.
Yeah, it's like having, I say it's like California, LA, it's like almost having another United States within
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about, let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned you did allude to, market trends and the fact that, the real estate market in Southern California, specifically in the LA area, is still really strong.
Hmm.
Location still is so important, no matter what market you're in, right? But what's it? I'm going to circle back a little bit to what I sort of alluded to earlier, and that was that being a licensed real estate agent in California, being affiliated with a brokerage in Beverly Hills, obviously conjures up all kinds of images of what life and what work must be like for an agent, right? But can you
Right.
share a little bit about, maybe dispel some of these myths that we may be thinking about?
Sure.
What's the day to day look like compared to what those of us in smaller markets might think it's like?
Sure. I'll take this, couple different directions. One direction I'll take it in is I chose Keller Williams Beverly Hills not because of Beverly Hills, not because of Keller Williams. I'm a big, uh, one of my core values is it's definitely people first. It's that, it's the who, not how. So the reason I went to Keller Williams Beverly Hills is because of one person, and this person's my mentor. And funny stories. After I got my license, everything, I emailed people I know, and I emailed her, and she didn't respond for like a week. And then the day I had the interview that morning, she emailed me and said, "When are you coming in? I have to talk to you." And I said, "Oh, my interview's in like 4 hours." So she's like, "Okay, I'm going to talk to you today." And she said the reason I wasn't responding was because I was on like a vacation where I just kind of detox from tech. But during that vacation, she's older. She's been in the business for like 30 years, and she said that people have asked her to mentor people, and she's always said no. But for the first time on this vacation, she thought I should give back. And when she saw my email, was one of the first things she saw, and she's like, I know who you are. I know your character. I would love to mentor you, and have this relationship. So when I interviewed with Keller Williams, they actually told me that's not how it works. There's a mentor already set for you. And I told them, okay, well, I'll think about it. So I left without any kind of commitment. They called back again the next day. I mean, these are amazing people, by the way. And he asked me, what would it take for you to get here? And I said, just give me her as my mentor, and I'll do it. And the reason I said that is because I knew they can give me any mentor. But I knew that as nice as everyone is, as knowledgeable as they are, I would just be a cog in the machine. So I thought, like even now, like they're such wonderful people. But when I do need something and I approach them, depending on the time, it does feel like I'm interrupting their whole day. And I don't like to do that either. But with her, I was like, she's going to be my person, and she really cares for me on a personal level, and same vice versa. So I was like, I don't care if this is Keller Williams Beverly Hills or like Keller Williams Skid Row. Like I will go wherever you are. So she's been my mentor. That's why I chose Beverly Hills. Now the day to day, it's really not about like during that interview, they're going to impress you with numbers, right? Like, hey, we have like 10 billion zillion dollars. And I was always like, listen, I don't care about your baseball stats. I'm telling you, I just need her, and I will make you money. Like you just give me that person. So I am not someone who is enamored with numbers. Like every meeting I go to, there's, a person talking big numbers, like 70 million. Like the reason I got into real estate is because of my kids, and I wanted to put my kids to bed. I was in the restaurant world for a very long time. I ran a restaurant, and I could never put my kids to bed. and I worked all the holidays. I haven't had a Father's Day, right? Or a Mother's Day. And so it was basically my level of like how you define success for myself was if I could put my kids to bed and keep the level of income, and I want to increase it little by little, but not like, selling sunset, like all these numbers. Cause I think when you do that, you get really blinded by things. So, the day to day for me is very simple. It's very basic. I have three buckets that I adhere to, right? So one is I find business, and then one is I keep the business, and then I do the business I already have. Finding business, I know that for agents it's like cold call, door knock, and I gave it a really solid try. And I realized something. I'm a big believer in the 80-20 rule. I realized I'm spending 80% of my energy, not even for 20% of success, probably like 0.5% of success, right? So I kept asking myself, like if it works for other people, definitely go for it. Like I'm not saying it doesn't work, but for myself, I thought I've built over my 20 years of professional work in the restaurant business, at my church, everything that I do. I have such a wonderful group of people. Why don't I constantly reach out to certain people, not for business, but just as a relationship builder? And through that relationship building, wonderful things tend to happen. Like that $5 million deal was the person I work for, my owner of the restaurant, who entrusted me with a $5 million deal. And he wouldn't do that if he didn't see my work, my character, my work ethic for the 10 plus years I've worked for him. So, all of it for me on a day to day is just boring, meaning boring wins, consistency wins. Glamour to me is it's just something that will just pass you by. And if you stick to your routine, and I'll also say the very first day I did not have a W-2 job, the very first day, like that Monday where I did not have to go to my W-2 job, I lost $6 million worth of transactions on my first day. And I was like, you should have seen like what did I just do? I had like $6 million in the works. I thought I was like, okay, I'm done with the job. I'm really building momentum. I lost $6 million in one day. So the proudest moment I had about that day, though, looking back on it, reflecting on it, was I kept to my schedule. I kept to my morning routines. I kept to my business. No matter how I felt, I kept to it. 2 weeks later, I got it all back. All the deals went through and great. And people will always be envious of the result, but they'll never be envious of what I had to go through in those 2 weeks, right? Or the day of
Yeah, isn't
losing
that the
it.
truth?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, wow, you did 10 plus million, but they have no idea the hives I got, the lack of sleep, all those things. And looking back, the proudest thing of that moment was not closing the deal. It was really the character I had when I thought it was all gone, and I still stuck to the program, stuck to my routines, stuck to how I do business, kept my character, never lost my temper on anything, controlled my emotions, thought of it logically, did creative math in my head. I got that $5 million deal back during getting a haircut because I was just doing math.
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
can bring everyone back to the table, I think, and that's how it worked out. But it's not an easy business. And I would also say that in California, the main difference, though, is that if I were an agent in Arizona, I would need like 30, 40 transactions, I think, right? In California, it's very different. You don't need 30 or 40. You can have a very nice business doing like 6 deals, 7
Yeah.
deals. But to get those 7 deals, you have to pay a tremendous amount of dues. And it's not easy. The stakes are so much higher. You have to be on your game because California is such a litigious state. So you have to be very, very aware of like the things you disclose, you have to disclose it well and do the best you can for your clients to make sure they know exactly what they're getting into. So yeah, I would say there's not many differences in terms of the actual work itself, but it is certainly a different type of grind because they're very high-end clients. And I would say whether you're the richest client or the poorest client, it doesn't matter. Every human being has a desire to be appreciated, to be served. They want, like, everyone has that human common denominator. And that's what my specialty is to tap into what is important to you and how can I help you get what's important to you. A lot of people, it's not just money. Money is very important, but I just work with one of my clients was a judge, and she was like, time is the most important thing. I want this gone. I was like, all right, let's do it. We got under contract in 6 days. She was amazing. And we got it done within 20 days. So I'm really aware of what they want, and it's not necessarily money, but a lot of times it is money. But
Sure.
sometimes it's like, I don't even want to see how the sausage is made. Just tell me when it's done. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's me.
Yeah.
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 I don't need all the details. I just, let's just get it done, which I also overpay for a lot of things because of that reason. So, yeah.
Right. Absolutely. That costs money. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Consistency wins. There's a sales manager I had years ago who used the analogy, like, he was talking about the Duke UNC basketball game that happened, around that time, and how one of the teams was down. I don't know which one, but going into the second quarter, and he said, the coach didn't change the game plan just because the team was down, right? They stuck to the same game plan. Like, you don't just start reinventing the wheel because things start going sideways. Block and tackle, stick to your routine. You mentioned your morning routine. Yeah. I think that's probably a topic for another podcast episode too. But I think, especially the older I get, the more I realize how important a quality morning routine is, and a night routine too, but especially that morning routine. As far as, I think one of the most important questions a new agent has to ask themselves before they even get into the business is, how do they intend to generate business, right? How do they intend to generate leads? And it sounds like you already had such a great sphere established of friends and colleagues who you knew well, and they knew you and respected you and trusted you. Do you have any specific marketing channels? Are you, do you focus a lot on social media, or, any marketing strategies that for generating new leads that you kind of lean on?
Sure. I would say right now, like, before I became a real estate agent, I just completely got off of social media. And I was very much like, okay, I don't have to ever come back. And then when I decided I want to be a real estate agent, I was like, I have to come back. And the reason being is because it's kind of like in Atomic Habits. It says, it's like identity based first before you reach your goals. And I always ask myself, what does a productive real estate agent do? And I was studying other real estate agents, and I said, oh, this is how they do it. And this is how I'll take it and I'll make it my own. So right now, Instagram is probably the number one thing I do where I reach out to new people. And then, and with that, I get a little, there's, I'm getting more and more comfortable with the uncomfortable. And so, when I was running the restaurant, before I left, they had this influencer dinner, and there was like all these people with like 2 million followers there. And then one of my friends, one of the managers, my coworker, was like, hey, you're an influencer now. You got to get in here. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I got in there, got to meet they're all wonderful people too. And I got some business through that. And so that's kind of the new business I've been leading. I've done cold calling. I've done email marketing. However, I think it's also important to note you have to evaluate, and you have to see, can this system be tuned up a little bit, or is this just not something you can do? I realized after 90 days of a good college try that I've been getting there was just, out of 4 hours, it would be like 3.5 hours of wrong phone numbers, right?
Yeah.
Another one of 25 minutes of hangups. And then the last 5 minutes was a person who already had an agent, and then just wanted to see if they had an offer, right? And then there's the other little small percentage that just wants to sue you for calling them, right?
Right.
So for myself, it wasn't. I realized if I keep doing this, I'm gonna quit this business. But for others, it works. There's people in my office that like do it so well and have their system refined. But I realized you have to be unique to your own skill set. So I've done it all. And then also, yeah, like I think calling and keeping connections with the people that you already do know. And then also, I think the most important thing really is I realized early on that my friends are not going to hire me right off the bat just because they're friends. Because they're not going to trust you with like $2-3 million things, right? Just because you're their friend. You
Yeah.
have to prove it to them. They're not loyal in terms of, like, when it comes to that, they're not loyal to you. They're loyal to your standards. I've learned that in the restaurant business. No one is loyal to you. Like all the regulars that come to your business, they're loyal to your standards. And so I needed to prove to them my standards so that when they do refer me, that they can trust me. So one of my philosophies is if I go really deep into each client, like really, and the care goes before, middle, and after. Like after it closes, what are you like? Like once someone closed and they needed a window repair, I was with them for 4 months trying to help them fix this window when I could have just walked away and said, here's, I went back. I said, I'm going to make sure it's done correctly. So how do you care for them afterwards? And when you do that, each person, they'll shout your name to the rooftop. And that has been something that has worked for me extremely well. Like once I get a client, you will know that I will care for you. I will go so many extra miles for you. And I will, because I want to earn that 5-star review. I just don't want you to give it to me. I want to earn it. And that's been the best thing about the past couple of years.
Repeat and referral business must be a big part of your business.
100%. I think that,
Yeah.
and that the mentor that I had, she's been in the business for 35 years. She'd never cold called either.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm like, and she has a family. So the reason that how I chose her and like just everything about her was I want to live the life that you've kind of led, and I want to know how you did it. Versus the guy, who made $70 million, but he had no family, no friends, nothing. I don't care if it's, so I wanted her to teach me how she did it all these years. And it's been working really well for me. And I think mentorship is so important to my success and to, I would say, anyone's success. Find a wonderful mentor. And I know we're going to end this quickly, but I have 2 rules for mentorship. Can I share that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So first rule is if you want a mentor, the mentee does all the work. Meaning every time I meet with her, if I'm meeting her for 1 hour, I have 2 hours worth of things I want to talk to her about. You don't just go in there and expect the mentor to just educate you. That's not how it works. That relationship would end so quickly. Okay, because you're going to drain the mentor. You want the mentor to like not even prepare anything. And you want the mentee, as myself, like every single time I meet with her, I have a ton of things. And then also, if you have an issue, solve it yourself, and then ask her what she thinks of the solution that you have, rather than this is my problem, how would you solve it, right?
Right.
So that's first thing is mentee does all the work. Second thing is figure out how to give value to the mentor, because they're giving you so much value. You have to figure it out. So my first year, what I did was I essentially had nothing to give her, I gave her gift cards. I was just like every closing, everything. I was like trying to do I was giving her that kind of value. And then nowadays, I'm really into technology. She's not, she's been, not doing it her way. And now I'm teaching her like AI and all these kind of things. And I'm trying to give as much value add to her that she's given to me. So when you have those two things, your relationship with your mentor, mentee, like it has no, you're just going to flourish in that relationship. So those are my two pieces of advice on finding a mentor, keeping a mentor, and being the type of person that can be mentored.
That's definitely worth underscoring the importance of a mentor. I'm so glad that you brought that up. So many successful realtors that have been on this podcast have shared the very similar viewpoint that mentorship is so important, especially early in your career. But I know highly successful luxury brokers who have been in the business for 25 years who still work with coaches, still probably more now than they did when they were younger. So yeah, I love that, and I usually close with asking the guest for advice for new brokers or new agents. Sorry, agents in North Carolina or brokers. It's all semantics, but for new real estate agents, and I think that that's the best advice. What you just said, yeah, for sure. I love that. Daniel, there's a couple of things that I'd love for you to come back on the podcast to chat with me about. Real estate investing is definitely one of them. It sounds like mindset, personal schedule, work ethic, that sort of thing is very top of mind for you as well. I'd love to chat on those topics as well. Morning routine, of course. But in the meantime, I just want to thank you so much for joining the podcast. I'm so glad that we connected. For listeners who want to learn more about you and connect with you, what's the best way?
I would say Instagram at Daniel Phai Homes. So DanielPhaiHomes. And I also have a personal website, just my name, and Daniel Phai, DanielPhai.com. It's nice to have a very unique last name, so no one ever takes it on the Gmail or anything like that.
That's right.
So those are the two best ways. Always kind of, on Instagram. I love talking to new people and chatting and just helping. If there's any questions, no business, necessary. I just want, if there's a question I can answer, I love doing that. Just serving in that sense.
I love that. I really appreciate that as well, Daniel. I'll have those links, of course, in the description for this episode, and we'll tag you, of course, on Instagram when I release it as well. So Daniel Phai, real estate agent affiliated with I'm sorry, I was about to say a local broker, Keller Williams, Keller Williams Beverly Hills. Yeah. So cool. Daniel, thanks a lot for joining. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much. It was fun.